An historically good start for the 22-year-old Hayden Birdsong kept the Giants from getting swept by the Rockies, and it brings them into LA feeling a whole lot better than they would have if they hadn't won the finale there.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And coming up on today's show, the big story of the day is just the historically great performance that we saw yesterday out of Hayden Birdsong, the 22-year-old right-handed pitcher for the Giants, total rookie. What was this? His fifth career start. If you look on Fangraphs, I mean, he's trending up there among, if you go to their player search bar, he's trending, and he was in the beginning of the day like the third most searched player. So like someone on Twitter commented to me that outing yesterday caught the attention of the league. And I agree 100%. Like, the league is on notice after an outing like that in Denver at age 22. He tied the, record for this year for the most number of swings and misses in a start with 27. He had 27 swings and misses, tied for the most in baseball in 2024. And it was in 6 innings, and it was in Denver. I get it that the Rockies have the lowest contact rate in baseball, but hey, the Rockies play a game every day, and they don't get 27 swings and misses every day, and against a particular pitcher. And then also, I would bet you that number is much better for the Rockies. They make a lot more contact at home, because one of the things about the altitude in Denver is that the ball doesn't move as well, like breaking pitches in particular, sliders and curves, and that's really what Birdsong was using most effectively in this outing. I think 21 of his 27 swings and misses came on curveballs and sliders, breaking pitches. And so it was, I mean, there's just so many different things that we can point out about the outing that was historic. First of all, by the way, he threw his curveball and slider each 34% of the time. So 68% breaking pitches. So 2/3, a little more than 2/3 of the time he threw a curve or a slider. So that's heavy breaking ball usage, which is an interesting approach in Colorado. I mean, it just kind of means that many that it just means that his breaking pitches can be that good. And he said, quote, I was landing curveballs over and over again, and the slider was there today. It was cool to see. It helps my confidence a little bit. I should say so. Just knowing that my stuff plays up here and I can kind of work off of that. So yeah, 27 swinging strikes, 12 strikeouts, the most ever by a Giants pitcher at Coors Field. So that's also baffling. I mean, think of some of the great pitchers that have come through the Giants organization since Coors Field first opened. When did Coors Field opened? Not that long ago, but quite a while ago. I'm going to look it up on Wikipedia as we speak. It opened in 1995. So what is that? Basically 30 years, right? About 30 years. This would be the 30th year of Coors Field. And So the most ever, the Giants have gone there every year and many times a year, right? And nobody's ever put up 12 strikeouts until Hayden Birdsong yesterday. 22 years old. Turns 23 in August, but my goodness, I mean, that was his 5th career start. And so it just shows you the upside there that he has. And it was also the most strikeouts by a Giants rookie in a single game since Tim Lincecum struck out 12 Diamondbacks on July 1st, 2007. And I mean, so Bob Melvin said he's a very talented kid. This is a tough place to pitch. We lost 2 tough games. There's a little more at stake when he takes the mound, given that they had just lost 2 tough games. Obviously, where we are, we wanted to get off to a good start. Coming out of the All-Star break, he means. To lose 2 games puts a little more pressure on you. It didn't look like there was pressure on him at all. He pitched really well. His breaking stuff is tough to track. There's multiple breaking balls. The curveball, the changeup, just a fantastic outing for a lot of different reasons. And it's kind of an understatement, honestly, by Bob Melvin. I mean, like, this was more than just a fantastic outing. This was a historical performance by Hayden Birdsong, and something that really jumped off the page when I was reading this article by Maria Guardado of sfgiants.com, MLB.com, was that she wrote in a paragraph, just out of the blue, I had to double take for a second, because she wrote, Birdsong could still be optioned to AAA Sacramento once Robbie Ray and Alex Cobb returned from the 60-day injured list. But he continued to open eyes with his electric performance. And that, I just hadn't thought about, I mean, maybe I would have thought about it as a possible corresponding move prior to yesterday's performance. But after yesterday's performance, it's really hard for me to say this guy should be sent to the minors, under any circumstances, because that type, I know it was against the Rockies, but it was also in Denver, and it was also over only 6 innings of work. So it'd be one thing if you put up, I'm giddy over this performance, because I think going all the way back to when they started pitch tracking, tracking swings and misses, basically, as one of the things that they were tracking, I want to say this was one of the top swing and miss performances since 2008, in the top 5. I need to verify that. I saw that somewhere. But, I mean, how do you take this guy off the roster at this point? He deserves another start. And his next start would come against the Rockies again at home. And so I think he deserves to make that start. I don't know. I mean, look, you've got players you could DFA. I'd rather see, I'm sorry, I never root for a guy to lose their job or whatever, but a Luke Jackson DFA as opposed to a Hayden Birdsong option makes more sense to me, because Jackson has really struggled, and he's in the last year of this 2-year guaranteed deal. There's a club option for next year, but he's pitched so poorly that it doesn't seem like that club option will be picked up. And that would clear a 40-man spot, and it would clear, a 26-man roster spot. Giants' 40-man roster currently sits at 39. So according to Roster Resource on Fangraphs, so they would need to. It looks like they made an acquisition today that I didn't even notice until right now, because I thought it was at 38. But they acquired Mike Bowman. He was traded to the Giants from, looks like, the Mariners, which is funny because they're always making trades with each other. He is a reliever who's out of minor league options, right-handed reliever. So, I mean, there you go. Maybe there's instead of Luke Jackson, maybe this guy, I don't know. All I'm trying to say is there are ways that you could do it where you don't have to kick Birdsong off your roster, and I don't know how you do it after that performance. I just don't know how you do it. And you could option Sean Jelly, who's struggled as of late. I think, just look, it is tough. When you look at the roster, it is tough to find a way to keep him on when you add a Robbie Ray and an Alex Cobb, and those guys are getting close to returning, and you will have to make corresponding moves, and you have to think about it from it can't necessarily be a position player because you don't want to be short on position players, so it kind of has to be a pitcher, and then you look at who they have on the pitching side, and there's not an obvious candidate outside of maybe, you could option Eric Miller or Randy Rodriguez or Sean Jelly, or you could DFA somebody like a Luke Jackson. So anyway, just what an outing, and they needed it because they only scored 3 runs in the game, and he allowed 2 on a 2-run homer, but it is Coors Field after all, so that's not surprising. But anyway, wow. So coming up in just a minute, we'll wrap that up, but also talk about how they lost 2 out of 3 here in Colorado, and you can't be doing that. And this is a part of the schedule they need to take advantage of, especially now with the Dodgers coming up. So we'll get into all of that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, myself included. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports by far. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And if you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has you covered every week, from lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays, which I always love to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. And Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California. Today, for this game against the Dodgers, I'm taking more than 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs for Mike Yastrzemski, who I think is sneakily swinging a hot bat right now against a rookie pitcher making his MLB debut. He'll be a right-handed pitcher, so he'll be in the lineup. And then I'm taking more than 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs for Shohei Ohtani. And this is a lineup where $30 if it hits, it's 105 in return. So anyway, download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, here we go. We are going to get into the fact that despite this great outing by Hayden Birdsong, I'm just still, just excited. And also we'll talk about how Kyle Harrison also had a really good outing, and these are two 22-year-olds. And so, it hasn't been a perfect season for the Giants by any means, but there's definitely some bright spots when you start talking about young players really doing things. And we've got on the pitching side Harrison and Birdsong. On the position player side, you almost look at Patrick Bailey like a veteran, but this is really his first full season in the major leagues, and he's just such a steady and good player already. And then what Elliot Ramos has done, although as I've been predicting for a while, he's kind of falling off a little bit, and we'll see if he can rebound. But a lot of positives despite the record for the Giants and losing 2 out of 3 to start this second half. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow, we're going to be breaking down Game 1 in LA. It's a 4-game series. It's a critical little difficult series in the midst of a soft part of the schedule. So this is not a soft part. These 4 games, it's just like avoid disaster, survive. If you can split this series, count your lucky stars and get home and play the Rockies for 4 and the A's for 2, and then go on the road and play the Reds and Nationals, and then home against the Tigers, and then the Braves, but then soft again, A's and White Sox. So this is the part of the schedule they have to take advantage of, which is why losing 2 out of 3 ultimately is just not good enough. And they okay, you can survive it, but you really, really have to do better, and you got to start doing better like fast, basically. So that's what we'll be breaking down tomorrow is game 1 in LA, where it is a rookie for the Dodgers making his major league debut in River Ryan against Blake Snell, who's been so good his last 2 times out. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day, by the way? Do you have to turn on the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, yeah, I mean, Birdsong, and then, it was Birdsong with his performance. Logan Webb, who was pretty good, but he did ultimately allow 4 runs. And then Kyle Harrison went 5 scoreless. And, they were putting out stats about Harrison too. He's like the only pitcher to ever have 2 scoreless outings, Giants pitcher, or maybe ever any pitcher ever to have 2 scoreless outings of 5 or more innings at Coors Field in a single season, something like that. Definitely for the Giants. I mean, it was just crazy stuff. And yet they couldn't win that game for him. He did walk 4, but he allowed only 1 hit in 5 innings. This was the wild game where the umpire blocked the ball that would have been a double down the line and scored 2 runs and make it 5-0, but instead it hit the umpire, deflected to the first baseman, and was an out. So instead of 2 runs scoring, no out recorded, runner on second, maybe third, it's no run scoring, out recorded, and Giants don't score again the rest of the game. And so, yeah, they gave up runs late. They didn't add on. There's all that. But, I firmly believe there's a solid chance if that ball does not hit, what was it, Chris Conroy? Yeah, Chris Conroy. Then Giants may win that game, and maybe you're looking at a series win here. So that was a huge bad break for the Giants there. But it's just ultimately to have 2 22-year-old pitchers kind of dominate at Coors Field is a good thing. And was really great to see, obviously. And but the fact is they lost 2 out of 3. And Bob Melvin was not happy with Chris Conroy. He got ejected prior to the game on Sunday, kind of fired up the troops, apparently. It reminds me, of course, of Gabe Kapler and how he was always talking about how he would just never wanted to be ejected, and he almost never was. And a lot of fans did comment on that to me and mailbag questions and stuff, and just randomly on Twitter, why does Kapler never argue? And it was weird and annoying. He just kind of didn't think it was strategically wise to argue, because then he would get kicked out, and he didn't see the analytical advantage of not being present, given that he was the manager of the team. But it's not an analytical thing. It's a human emotion thing. And Bob Melvin gets ejected before the first pitch of the game because he goes out and takes out the lineup card and starts yelling at Chris Conroy. And he said some things he shouldn't have said. He was just mad. And I understand. I mean, that was a horrible, to affect the outcome of the game like that. I I'd like to see the league or the umpire issue a statement, just something to say like, I tried to get out of the way. I really regret that I wasn't able to. It affected the game, and I'm going to try to be better. Just something, but we don't get that kind of thing in MLB for whatever reason. But Tyler Fitzgerald, who by the way had a great series and has earned some playing time with how he's played in this series, said about Bob Melvin's ejection. He said, I can't be sure, but he's probably been planning that since last night. It was just pretty cool. We were all kind of shocked. We didn't really know what happened, but it definitely fired us up a little bit. And so that's what I'm talking about. It's an emotional thing. It's not like, oh, we don't have our tactician making the decisions in the dugout. It's like emotional, right? It's like he's got our back. We're mad and he's representing us and going and getting in the umpire's face for us. And it makes you motivated as a player to go out there and, have his back. And sure enough, Jorge Soler led off the game with the longest home run of the year. And I think second longest home run of the year in the sport was Jorge Soler's leadoff homer, 478 feet. And I think it was the second longest home run the Giants have hit in the StatCast era, which began in 2015. The longest was Alex Dickerson in 2020. Went a little bit further, but that was a blast, obviously, by Soler, and he's a bat. If they can get it going, then obviously, he's a huge bat potentially that just hasn't been that for most of the season. So if he can just get hot and like have a hot month, that could go a really long way. But ultimately, the Giants lose 2 out of 3. I know I keep saying that, but what does it mean? Well, it means they fell, one more game under 500 by the end of the series. So they're 48 and 52, still though afloat. That's just not, it's still in striking distance. 48 and 52, excuse me. It is 4th place in the division, but you do have 3 teams above 500 in the division ahead of you in the Diamondbacks, obviously the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres. But in the wild card, the Giants are only 3 back, and there's a 3-way tie. It's kind of a virtual tie. All 3 teams actually have different records, but it's a virtual tie between the Mets, Diamondbacks, and Padres for that final wild card spot. And then there's a Pirates a half game ahead of the Giants, 2.5 games ahead of the Giants, a half game back of the Mets, Diamondbacks, and Padres, and then the Giants are next with a bunch of teams on their heels. The Cubs are only half a game behind the Giants. The Reds and Nationals are only 1 game behind the Giants. And then there's a huge drop-off with the Rockies and Marlins 15-plus games out of the playoff picture. So really every team outside of the Rockies and Marlins is like kind of in this race. And so if you're the Giants, you've got talent, you've got guys coming back. They've finally got guys coming back like now. We're going to see Robbie Ray in this series for the first time all season. First time since early 2023 that he will have pitched, and he's coming back. So coming up in just a minute, we will preview the health status, like the return of Robbie Ray. I'll make a guess as to what I think the corresponding move will be. It won't be for a while. It'll be a few days. He's not going to pitch like tonight, but he's going to pitch in this 4-game series as long as he kind of recovers from his latest outing fine. So we'll get into the Dodgers series, previewing the pitching matchups and the return of Robbie Ray to the mound. First, outing ever in a Giants uniform is coming up, and what it means for them. All of that in just a minute. And before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. I obviously love sports, love baseball. I love sports, though, so much that I never want them to stop. As the playoffs have wound down in other sports, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't quite sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. I'm checking it out right now. Giants are in LA. They're obviously going to be underdogs, even though they'll have Snell on the mound. And the Dodgers are going with a pitcher making his major league debut. This guy, River Ryan, is according to Fangraphs, number 34 ranked prospect in baseball. So that is worth pointing out. But Giants money line at plus 110. Over under in the game, 8.5 runs. I think that's a little high given that it's Snell on the mound for the Giants, and the Giants offense scored only 3 runs a game in Denver. So anyway, that's the beauty of baseball is on FanDuel. There's so much you can check out still with the season going on. So FanDuel.com, make the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, here we go. We're going to get into previewing the series against the Dodgers and how it's critical that you don't just have a disastrous series, given that I wouldn't call losing 2 out of 3 to the Rockies a disaster, but getting swept would have been a borderline disaster. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow, like I said, Blake Snell versus River Ryan. Annoying Dodgers pitcher name. It's a nice, cool name, but nonetheless, I wish him failure tonight. Maybe not in his life, but like tonight. He was doing well in AAA, and it's typical Dodger stuff. Heavy ground ball rate in 5 starts in AAA. Projection's not like super favorable, but the Giants, they tend to not do well with pitchers making their major league debuts. Like, that's been going on forever. And I don't know, buck the trend for once, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, the players have changed. Why does this seem to just be a thing as a team? The managers, the coaches, everything has changed, and yet the trend seems to continue. And so that's the matchup tonight with Snell. So you could make a case that the Giants should have the edge based on the pitching matchup and based how Blake Snell has pitched the last 2 times he's gone out there. It is worth noting the Giants offense. I keep getting a lot of comments, talking about how bad their offense is. They are still rated as an above average offense by weighted runs created plus. We go through the individual numbers frequently in terms of, okay, what's the Giants batting average versus the league average batting average? What's the Giants on base percentage versus league average? What's the Giants slugging versus league average slugging? And they come out either like above average or like right around average. And then you adjust for the fact that they play in a pitcher friendly park half the time. And this weighted runs created plus takes that into account and says they're a slightly above average offensive team, even with some of the struggles that we've seen. And also there's been comments about, they strike out too much and all that, but they strike out a below average amount of the time. And they also make contact at a way above average rate. Their contact rate is like 8th best in baseball. When they swing, their contact rate is 8th best. On swings, they make contact 78.5% of the time, which is the 8th highest rate in baseball. So just for the record, offense is bad in the sport. It's maybe we haven't seen it so much because the Giants pitching has been not very good. And so relative to other teams, their offense has been worse than other teams on the year. But relative to the league, the Giants rank poorly in ERA. They're 23rd, right ahead of the A's. Okay, so that has been more of the issue. And then one of the things is, though, you're finally getting Robbie Ray back, supposedly. Not supposedly. So Bob Melvin said, I think it was on the 20th that he said, okay, so the backstory is that Robbie Ray gave up 1 hit over 5 1/3 scoreless innings on Friday in what is likely to be his final rehab start. So Friday, he's already a few days removed, and he walked 2, struck out 7 through 78 pitches. And this is, again, per MLB.com, Maria Guardado. And she says he's likely on track to make his Giants debut during the Giants 4-game series at Dodger Stadium next week. He's coming off Tommy John surgery, hasn't pitched since March 2023. And then Melvin said, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's a good chance he'll be pitching in LA. It's a big deal. He's probably not going to go out there and throw 120 pitches his first time out. Nobody is. But he got up a 6th time yesterday, meaning he pitched into the 6th inning. 1 hit, some strikeouts, and the velo was there. He threw all his pitches and felt good. That's what we're looking for. So it looks like a near certainty that Robbie Ray will come off the 60-day injured list and pitch in this series. I'm not exactly sure which game it would be, but again, this is just a series. If you can steal game 1 here with Snell on the mound, and when I say steal, I just say that because you're going up against the Dodgers, who are obviously very good. Mookie Betts, as far as I know, is still injured, so you won't have to contest with him. Ohtani is just on another planet. Hopefully you can avoid having to deal with him too much. Hopefully you can take advantage of a rookie pitcher. You've also got a well-rested Jordan Hicks scheduled to go in game 2. He was supposed to start the finale in Colorado, but it was pushed back. And then another rookie, Landon Knack, going for the Dodgers in the second game against Hicks. And so that's a theoretically game where you could have a pitching edge as well. And then Tyler Glasnow is apparently going to come off the IL and start the third game. And then Clayton Kershaw is going to come off the IL and make his first start of the year in the finale. And so maybe it'll be Robbie Ray against Clayton Kershaw, each of whom, lefties with Cy Young Awards making their season debuts on the same day in late July. That would be very odd and interesting. But I would guess Robbie Ray may pitch actually that third game based on the days of rest, since his rehab outing was on Friday. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we'll keep it simple and just break down the first game of this series. Blake Snell, let's hope he can keep it going, because when he gets on a roll, he gets on a roll. And he's been on a roll his last 2 starts. And when he's on a roll, he can kind of dominate anybody. And I think he's historically dominated the Dodgers. And so hopefully that can just be a thing that continues and can start if you can win a game to start the series and just find a way to win at least one of the next 3, then you'll be all right with that. And just stay afloat. Don't bury yourselves. That's kind of the mantra, especially with 4 games at home against the Rockies coming up. So once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.